Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa from Pro REA Staffing, and my special guest today is my dear friend and colleague, Kathleen Metcalf. So, Kathleen and I were talking the other day about how more and more of my clients are looking for an assistant who is based in the United States, but isn't necessarily local to them. And one of their big hangups with hiring somebody who isn't physically in their office is, how do I train this person if they're not sitting next to me? And I thought, I think this is something that Kathleen and I need to talk about, because we're seeing this more and more. And Kathleen has a lot of experience helping agents train their virtual assistant or their assistant who happens to not be in their office. So whether your assistant is across town and just not coming in because of COVID, or they're on the other side of the world, we're going to talk about some of the fundamental best practices and things you should keep in mind as you train and onboard your virtual assistant. So thank you, Kathleen. I'm so excited to dig into this today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here always with you. And this has definitely been a hot topic over the last year, when everyone got a taste of what it was like to work remotely, to work from home, to not be in the office together, even if it was just for periods of time. And then over the last year, I've also hired a virtual assistant who's across the world. And so we've had very personal experience with training and bringing someone up to speed who is, remote always. And so we have also lived the dream, so to speak, about what it was like. So we've also been able to walk the walk ourselves.
And so I want to, in your experience with agents, once they get through this training phase, how are people finding working virtually with their assistant when they're used to having somebody on site?
I definitely say more than half of our clients have actually found that remote working is very workable and it's very manageable, and some prefer it. I had a conversation with a client yesterday that her agent called her and said, "How do you like working from home?" And the admin said, "Well, I really love it," because she has a whole professional home office set up. And her agent said, "I really love it that you work from home too, because if I call you at 6:30 and I need you to help me for 10 minutes, I know that you just have to walk down the hall. I don't have to ask you to do something extraordinary." And the admin is fine with that. So she said, the compromise is, we'd like you to come in for, team meetings. We'd like you to fill in when someone's on vacation. But otherwise, we love the fact that you work from home. So that was a, really pleasant surprise for both parties. And it really then boils down to the systems that you have in your business about how well it works to have transparency and accountability. Mm-hmm. Where you really don't need to be in person.
Right. And I think the only things that people get hung up on are running out to help with showings or running errands. There are some physical things that obviously a virtual assistant can't do, but there are other services who can help you with that, right?
Yes.
TaskRabbit maybe, or maybe there's a newer agent in your office who's happy to go run some errands for you for a little pocket cash, or a college student. Especially a lot of our clients are in California, and a licensed, experienced real estate assistant in Los Angeles makes $85,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to get into the market and hire your first assistant, that is a huge salary to swallow. Where if you can maybe hire a college kid to go fill your flyer boxes and have an assistant in Texas who is really happy making $55,000 a year, that's a significant savings and impact in your business. And so I'm having more and more clients just do the math and think about, what do I really need? What's really important to me? And they're realizing, I just don't need them to be sitting next to me. I don't need to pay for the office space and all of that. And I can get the main things that I really need taken care of virtually. So I love that you talked about transparency and accountability, because I think one of the big fears with hiring a virtual assistant is, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing it right. How do I know that they're actually working all day? And there's sort of these anxieties that come up. So I guess let's first talk about, how do you build transparency and accountability into your workflow with your virtual assistant?
So having transparency and accountability in the office was usually a whiteboard, a paper file, and a meeting. And so when you are not in the same building, then your whiteboard becomes virtual. So it can be a spreadsheet easily. And then your file can be either a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or a Word doc, or it can be project management software like Asana, or transaction management software like Dotloop or Command, or the other project management softwares or transaction management software. And then the meetings are video conference. And so the ability to track what someone is doing. So one of the habits of agents that grow into leaders is sometimes that they have been marketing their personal cell phone number. Mm-hmm. This becomes an issue long-term anyway, because the agent really doesn't need to get all those phone calls. So if you have a phone number like a Google Voice, a Ring Central, some sort of voice over internet phone service where you have a dashboard, you can see phone calls that came in. You can see phone calls that went out. You can see how long the phone call went. You can text, and be able to see the text from a dashboard that everyone can access. So it just opens up this whole arena of being able to know what's going on. If you have company-owned email with company cloud storage, then you can see sent mail. You can know what's in the Google Drive or the OneDrive or Dropbox, or in Outlook. So all of that becomes, the company owns it. You can absolutely have access to that if you want to see, directly what's going on. You don't need spy software. You don't need, all kinds of things like that. You can just build in the transparency inside company-owned materials. So let's take one step left about that around computers and people that work remotely.
Yeah.
Right. So the IRS thinks that if someone is told when to work, what to do, then you often make them a W-2 employee, and they often then work on company equipment. Mm-hmm. So for my employee who's a coach who works for me, I bought her a computer, had that shipped to her. So she works on company equipment on company time. The virtual assistant we employ through through asklevel.com is not my employee. So she works on her own equipment, but she's inside my company email, inside the company drive, working inside that. We also use LastPass as a password protection software where I can share passwords and logins with people on my team who have a free LastPass account, and they don't even see the password. It's hidden. So if something were to happen and I wanted to shut them out, I just shut them out of all the passwords. And I recommend that to my clients because, even if something happened, like they got sick and now you need to be able to take that back, right? Which has been, a big concern of everyone's over COVID, right? We never knew what was happening, if people could get ill, suddenly. Yeah. So you want to be able to set up your business so that you can get in, get out, you can give access, you can take access back. And that is all possible with technology.
So incredible, isn't it? How much has evolved and changed. I mean, it really, thank goodness COVID happened now and not 10 years ago, right? Or 20 years ago. Yes. No, it would be a completely different experience. But now you're right. Now it's very easy to get in and get out and see what's happening. Okay. So we talked about, making sure that you own the email account, understanding that there is no expectation of privacy when using company-owned equipment and emails and all of that. Whether you choose to go in there or not is up to you, but it should be clear that you have the right to do so. It's not a private account. Okay, let's talk about the plan. Like how do you create a 30, 60, 90 plan for their onboarding and implement that when you can't just sit next to them or like shout across the room and tell them, oh yeah, by the way, blah, blah, blah.
So we have a menu of a 30, 60, 90 day of things that they could learn, but someone could set that up in any way. So you want to really brain dump what are all the things they're going to need to learn. And then what we call it a menu because we think depending on what's going on in the business, you should pick 3 topics a week that they're going to work on. And you sort of chip away at what did we get to learn this week? So maybe they're going to, meet virtually with your office to learn about contracts, or maybe they're going to take tutorials on how to use Adobe, or whatever the things might be. And we recommend that there are 2 30-minute blocks a day in your admin's schedule for learning.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first 90 days, it's so important that there is doing and learning, that there are tasks they're working on, because they will learn by doing tasks. But if you don't have preferably an hour a day set aside for learning, in 4 months, you'll think they know things that they don't know because they've just been doing things. We also find that the repetition of 3 to 6 times of doing something builds a little more muscle memory. So we encourage agents, like, you need to keep bringing in deals. Like, it's helpful.
Yeah,
you don't want to just
doing
spend
business.
all your time training. You want to give, real life examples of what's going on. And then it's also important to provide, whether it's video conference or telephone, provide context for why did we use that strategy with this client? Why did we need this disclosure for this deal and not for this deal? So you're giving your new people some context so that they can make judgment calls, make suggestions as the repetition goes on, because now they understand the why, not just the do. Because we talk about the first 90 days, it's like when you open a jigsaw puzzle box on the table and all the pieces are all over and you have the cover of the box on the table, but you still have to turn over all the pieces and you're not sure how they all fit together. And that's what it feels like in the first 90 days, particularly for the new person, including a new person who's experienced in real estate with a license. Our colleague, Jen Stalcup from RE-Box, gave me the expression, they know how to make a sandwich, but they don't know how to make a sandwich that you like. Mm-hmm. But they've never worked for you before. So there's still a very steep learning curve.
I think I really want to nail that point home because, often people say, no, I just want an experienced person because I just want someone who can come in and hit the ground running. I don't want to have to train somebody. So talk about the difference in training somebody who you think comes in with experience. So they work for Joe down the street. Mm-hmm. They say they've done listing coordination, transaction coordination. Cool. I don't have to train them on that. They know my market. They know how to do those things. What's the reality when that person comes into your office and you don't have systems in place? This is your first assistant. It's all in your head. Then you're like, do listings, go do transactions. I gotta go. What happens? What's the reality of that situation?
They unpack their luggage from their old job and they do it the way they used to do it for the other person. And that might be good, might not be so good, depending on how the other people ran their business and what kind of habits they had. The advantage of people who are from the real estate industry is usually vocabulary. They know more terms. They may know certain process steps based on the state that you're in, depending on what they were exposed to. Sometimes it's not as helpful as you would think because they were exposed to a certain portion of the business, but they never did other things. So if we look at what is the job description and or the job posting of the responsibilities before the line that says as and other tasks as assigned, what are all the things above that? That's how you then begin to create their training plan, because they need to know how to do everything in their job description, preferably inside their first 90 days. So what are all the things that go with those tasks? So they're going to unpack their luggage from their old job, but then they have to sift through and decide, oh, you don't do it that way. So now they have to learn a new work habit. Now they have to learn a new system, a new software, a new way of thinking. Because this is definitely the place where it's new every time, is I tell agents, they have to understand how you think, how you filter information, how you make decisions so that they can be your ambassador, because this admin is water skiing behind your boat. You make the wake. So you get to decide.
And I love that you said it like that, because I'm preparing. David Brackenheimer and I are going to do a talk next week on finding someone who's a great culture fit. So talking about values, then also leadership. Yep. And that just made me think about how important it is to be very clear about what your core values are, because you make decisions based on your core values. And so they may have been on a team that made decisions based on a set of core values that is different from yours.
Right.
And we all think that people think like us, right? Like, of course, on time means 5 minutes earlier. Of course, you don't wear flip-flops in the office, but you have to be explicit in these things, right? What are your values? How do we make decisions as they relate to that? And if you can start there, right? If people say, okay, this is what's important to us, this is the core of how we operate,
Yes.
then you don't have to be involved in every decision. Because if they make a decision that's in alignment with your core values, even if it's not exactly the way you would have done it, you're probably going to be okay with it. It's going to be a fairly good decision. And you don't want to be involved in everything. Like give them context, explain the why, so that, and the values, and then you get to move on with your life a little bit faster and get on to the fun stuff and out of the training, right?
Yes, because it's very important to me in my business, in my coaching and training practice. We always go through the filter of kindness and generosity. What is going to be, not only efficient, effective, profitable, timely, needed, but then it has to go through kindness and generosity. And so that might mean we let someone take more time. That might mean that we do something for free. That might mean that we have a longer conversation, because that's important to me, because I want to be that place in the world for people. So then, but that's not always the way other businesses were run. So people that come to work for me need to know, if you go the extra mile for someone, I'm going to be okay with that, because that so strikes a chord for me. So yes, so agents need to know, what is that for them? And then admin, it's helpful for them too, to be able to align their values. So I'm eager for that conversation for you, David, to come out, because then admin need to know their values so they can get lined up with the right ski boat.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's a whole nother topic. So let's talk about, how do you stay in the flow with your boss if you can't hear them on the phone or see when they're leaving the office? So some sort of that like logistical, how do I stay in touch with my boss if I can't be near him or her?
So particularly during the training phase, but this can also be true, on an ongoing basis, I recommend that there are checkpoints built into the schedule. So constant texting, constant Slack. On occasion, when you need to do that because things are, really moving quickly, I understand. At the same time, if you have a touch base where either people are reading an update or they're receiving an update, and it can be a window of time, and then people are collecting their questions, collecting their updates, and you can count on it. That between 8 and 9:30, you're going to do that. And between 11 and 1, you're going to do that. And between, 3 and 4, you're going to do that. Because in the beginning with a new person, we recommend 3 times a day. And the purpose for that is, for agents that prospect in the morning, it's very important, because we need to leave you alone. We need to protect that time. That is the fire of the engine that keeps everything rolling. So you want your admin to be productive. So then exchange priorities in the morning, brain dump for the agent so that anything they're concerned about, get it out. Let somebody work on that while you're prospecting. So then check in again midday to see, what happened in the morning. Make sure that if in the morning you told them, I need this by noon, if during prospecting you get now a listing appointment and you're going to go at 3:00, well, we need to know that right away. So now we can work on that priority. And if you have more things for someone to do, you want to tell them at 3:00, not 4:45.
Right.
Now you set up a culture where people, are, and I learned a lot of this too from David Breckheimer, like it's not compassionate to be able to have everyone keep working late. If you are in the, make hay while the sun shines phase, that's understandable, but we still want to be able to have that mid-afternoon check-in. What do we need to get done by the end of the day, and what's on the list for tomorrow? Because the to-do list never ends.
Yeah.
And that is something, that admins certainly get used to, but it's important to remember, like you have to pace yourself. This is a marathon.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And you'd mentioned to me before that some of your teams will be on video conference in the background so that they can hear each other, or the admin can hear the agent on the phone and sort of physically be there and be up to date. Tell me about that.
Yes. So agents who could be at home, could be in the office, they can be, across the world, doesn't really matter. But one of the training techniques is to have office hours. And in that office hour, the agent is on video conference. The admin can hear the agent and see the agent, but the admin's microphone is muted. So this allows, just like if you were in the office next to each other at two desks. So talk on the phone to your clients, do your prospecting, do your lead follow-up, negotiate a contract, and let your admin hear how you do that. For some agents, they might also bring an admin in on a conference call, sometimes known to the client, sometimes not known to the client, to be able to hear that triangle, of how is this client reacting? How do you best take care of that? How do you work with a high analytical client? How do you work with the big driver that only wants the bottom line? How do you work with the client that has high emotion? So in office hours for a set period of time, it shouldn't really disturb what the agent is doing. And if it's an admin training an admin, you can do the same thing, but you can then be able to have the chat feature. So now I have a question, but you can be able to help show them screen share, just like if you were sitting next to each other in the office. But the even better part is now you can record the screen, save the recording, put that in cloud storage, preferably organized in some way by topic. So now you're beginning to create an operations manual.
And you are great, because you are getting right into what I wanted to talk about next. So go in there. So let's talk about, how do you not have to repeat this the next time you hire, or repeat that I already showed you this once, but it's been 3 months. Now I have to show it to you again. How do you prevent that?
So it can happen randomly in the beginning, and you can organize it as you go. So if you record your screen, you narrate, you are actually doing the work, right, while you're recording. So it's not really an extra step. You're recording what you're doing. You're filling out, the MLS, you're, sending email templates, whatever it is. You're doing a merge to get, a newsletter out. You record that screen. You then, whether you use Zoom or Vimeo or any of the different products, be able to get that recording, which is usually an MP4 file. Sometimes it also comes with an audio file separately, and you load that into a cloud storage, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and then create a table of contents where it links to that recording inside your Google Drive. So you can have a 1-page, 5-page, but one document of a table of contents that shows what you've covered, entering a new listing in MLS, doing mail merge to send out the newsletter. You can reorder the table of contents anytime you want. And then the links to the recording or the actual recording are then hyperlinked into the table of contents. We have a systems outline I would be happy to offer as a free download. It's a couple of page PDF to show you the topics that you should, consider having. But then you actually have real live, and you can attach a form, a sheet. You can have all of those hyperlinks inside your table of contents. So when you get a new person, they go into the table of contents, click, and then they go to the topic and they get to see a video. You can click and link it to a document. It's fantastic.
It really is. We do this when we hire a new recruiter. We have about a 2-week program where they really don't do any work for the first 2 weeks. They have a series of trainings they go through. And at this point, it's really simple. It doesn't really take us much time. We check in a couple times a day. What questions do you have? What did you get through so far today?
Yes.
And let me tell you, it's a lot better than having one of our recruiters or half of our team, one-on-one with somebody. We've done it once or twice, and now it's all recorded, and we have every new person update anything that seems out of date. So if there's a how to do something on a software program, and programs get updated, buttons get moved around, sometimes things are outdated, then they record the new one. It gets updated, and there you go. Right? It's so much better.
It's wonderful. And then I know you had Laura Sims from my team on your podcast. And so this is also now a service that we've started providing, because for some people it is overwhelming and they can't imagine how they're going to get this done. And we see what a missing piece this is in businesses, but certainly in real estate teams, so that it is scalable, duplicatable, efficient, effective, and compassionate. Thanks to our friend David Breckheimer.
Yes. Well, and I think what's interesting about this is, if you have, let's say you have an office administrator who's been with you for 5 years, and up to this point, you haven't really documented the things that you do. You're kind of beholden to that person. I mean,
Yes.
goodness forbid they get sick, leave, you decide you want to transition them out, but you really can't because they know all the things. Mm-hmm. And then to get that person to slow down and sit down and document everything they do, it just doesn't work because everything's so automatic for them. They skip a lot of things that are obvious to them. What is that? It's there's the 4 types of awareness.
Unconscious, conscious,
yeah. They're that one. The one where they just don't even know what they did, what they know. It's so obvious. It's so much better to do this when somebody is new, or to have somebody like Laura's amazing because she asks really good questions and she's so organized and she makes it so easy to just word vomit all the things and then she makes it pretty. Yes. It's amazing. And I know teams absolutely love working with her because if you've been that admin for 5 years on a team and things are automatic for you, but you want to be able to move up and do something else, but you're kind of stuck in your role because you do all the things, how amazing to be able to just download to Laura, this is how we do this thing. And then she documents it and there you go. And
yes, because there are teams that could create a director of operations position. They do enough volume, they want to grow, they're adding agents, but the managers, the TC, the listing coordinator, whatever the position title is sort of not able to grow because they're in the transactions, because they're so needed to actually do that work. But if they will document that work, then they could either add a supplement to themselves, or they could be promoted inside, the company, which was not really possible before. The teams didn't really have that idea. And so I want to circle back around just for a moment and talking about this, because there is sometimes fear if we document the systems and they're not going to need me anymore. Mm-hmm. But that is so limiting in terms of, could it be a concern? I guess yes, but usually it means there's more opportunity to grow, to do something else. Is it okay to be a career transaction management person? Absolutely. And it just still doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks and have someone step in and run it for you and then come back to your job refreshed. That I know is like music to people's ears. Because when you also look at compensation in an area, I tell agents and admins, it's just like pricing a listing. Compensation is based on location, skill, and experience, just like houses are based on location, features, and condition. Yeah. So being able to look at, what's possible, how does that, position fit in? If you have someone, remotely, what is that location? What is the value of that position and that person in that area? And so you have more choices as you have systems that are easier to follow and well documented.
Well, and let's talk about one of your other main services, the 90 Days to Thrive program, which we send as many of our clients as possible through your program because one, agents typically don't do a great job of what we've talked about today. It's not their skill set. It's not what they really want to do. People. Yeah, they don't want to have to do this piece, and they recognize how important it is. And 2, you serve as a bridge between the new hire and their boss, and you have saved more than one placement where miscommunication, missed expectations, some things weren't happening on the right wavelength, you were able to pull it all together. So talk about the 90 Days to Thrive program and what that takes off of the agent's plate in terms of training their new hire.
Yeah, so 90 Days to Thrive, this is my 9th year in business and I'm going into my 20th year in real estate. And the people, so Tiffany Lawson is an admin success coach working with me. She in some ways has a similar background. We've been admin, we've been agents. Tiffany's still licensed. I haven't been licensed in a number of years, but we understand both sides of the equation. And so 90 Days to Thrive is set up as having a weekly coaching session and in a rotation schedule. So we meet with the admin and the agent together, then we meet with the admin, then we meet one-on-one with the agent, then we meet one-on-one with the admin. And so it's a rotation schedule like that for 3 months for 12 weeks. Because inside your first 90 days, both the admin and the agent want to make sure like we did the right thing and we're really, getting enough of a foundation so that now we can really row the boat and get some traction to happen. So our training program, REA 101, that's 12 modules of video for the admin, you can binge watch it in 12 hours. But now application is really where the coaching comes in. So we have a business circle that shows the flow in a business real estate practice from leads to lead follow-up and appointments, listings, offers, pendings, post-closing, building repeat and referral business. Your admin needs to know what are the systems and the workflow that you want? How does their role fit in? Where do systems perhaps have to be developed? So we're ticking off each of those areas through the 12 weeks to make sure that there is at least a foundation of understanding and the ability to do the job. And so, we're also watching for what's the feedback? What questions do you have? Where are you confused? Agents may sometimes who have not managed before only give positive feedback or only give complaints. And so it needs to be balanced. And it's okay to learn how to do that, because the agents learned how to do listing presentations and do buyer consultations and negotiate contracts, which is how they've gotten so successful that they now need administrative support. This is a very similar skill set, but you're not supposed to already know this or already be good at it, and we can help you. And so in just a short amount of time, what it does for both parties is they feel confident that they know each other, they're building a strong foundation, and now, they can really rock and roll.
Right. That's such a great explanation of all of the things that you pack in to 12 weeks. And just to be clear, you don't just coach real estate assistants through that program. And we've sent you operations managers, sales managers. I mean, even if they're in escrow or like loan processing, the fundamentals are the same.
Yes, because we think that everyone should understand the flow of the business, even if they are responsible for a certain portion of the flow. They still need to understand how the business functions and how their work impacts the other people. And because we match the job description to the 30, 60, 90-day plan, we can customize our coaching work for really any administrative support role that isn't a direct salesperson. We have onboarded salaried agents, but that's really not our specialty. We really are working with any level, any variety of position that is of support in operations to a real estate practice. In residential, and we have some commercial clients. Yeah.
So what are some of the common bumps in the road that people experience during the first 90 days?
Oh, gosh. There are lots of speed bumps. So there are technical ones where someone thought they really knew how to do spreadsheets, but now they don't really know how to create them. They only know how to fill them in. So we sometimes come across a skill set that maybe hasn't been tested the way it needs to be in this business. So they have a learning curve of needing to learn some things technical. We definitely have software learning curves, contract disclosure learning curves, where people really do need specialized attention that's local. And then there's the interpersonal side of things. In the interview process, the agent said your schedule can be flexible. And flexible takes on a whole new meaning when now, I have to go to the vet, the admin may not understand that you only meant once a quarter and they mean every day. So there is sometimes miscommunication from the interview process to what those expectations really look like. And for the skill set of the agent, if they're not accustomed to having structure in their business, that can really throw a monkey wrench in. The admin is not supposed to do business the way the agent does. If the agent is accustomed to just spinning and not work on a schedule, it is fine for the agent to run their business that way for themselves. But the admin really should create structure. And so sometimes we have some clash there about, we said you were going to meet, now the agent can't meet, now they canceled, now they delayed, now they rescheduled, now they didn't show. That is very difficult to create stability in the operation because the admin, so this is classic, right? Sales and operations have been have been at odds in business for decades, probably, longer probably. And so this is the yin to the yang. And so we sometimes need to have compassion, understanding, empathy about what it is like to be on the other side of the board.
Yes. And let's talk about mistakes. So during those first 90 days, both sides are evaluating each other, and it's specifically that the employer is trying to decide, is this person a long-term fit? Am I going to keep them? Is this working? And nobody is perfect. People make mistakes, especially when they're learning a job. And so how do you help clients assess what is normal in the learning process and what is a red flag?
So it is absolutely normal for new people to make mistakes. They really have to, because learning is not just intellectual or visual, it's kinesthetic. They have to actually do it in motion. And it's just like riding the bike, right? I use this analogy all the time. If you can remember what it was like to have training wheels on, and then you took one training wheel off, and then you were kind of wobbly, and then you fell. It's just how you learn to ride a bike. And so when an admin is doing it 60%, 75%, so agents really need to learn to see progress and understand that there are very few things we can't fix. There may be times where your admin costs you money. Mm-hmm. And it hopefully is within a reasonable amount, but it's also okay to have checkpoints, right? You show them, they do it, they show it to someone before it goes out, that gets approved, then it goes out. You do that a few times, and then you let them send things out. Then you need to inspect what you expect. And so if once a week or every other day, you go in and look at the sent mails for a few minutes and see, okay, yep, I like that. Now you need to give feedback. And so I prefer to speak about this as calibrating than right or wrong, because there's no such thing as perfect. It can be inside the bullseye of what you want them to do, but it has to be a range. There's no such thing as perfect. There is hitting the mark, but the mark still has margin of what is that like. So that is definitely a give and take process. The red flag comes in if you have an attitude issue from an admin that does not receive corrective feedback well, or who makes the same mistake over and over again, or has resistance to doing things the way you want them to do them. That's a red flag. From there, you can have conversation about, here's what we need, because we do talk about ego. Ego has resistance. Ego wants to be right. If you have a humble, a humility in the way in which you are approaching being a learning person, you're always learning. If you have that as a value in your company, that you value the fact that we're always learning. So now calibrating is totally normal. Mm-hmm. You're going to keep calibrating because you're going to keep learning as a team, which is, the fodder for creativity and collaboration. Right, wrong, perfect, not perfect, mistake is below the line in the video that I often show in my admin mastermind or talks, where it's from conscious leadership. We can connect here if you want to show people about it. So it talks about, fear, making a mistake takes people below the line. You want to live above the line where there is no fear for being curious. Did that work? How did that go? What was the payoff for that? Let's change it a little bit. That's collaboration and creativity. You want your team to live there.
We're hardwired to go below the line. Literally, our brain is programmed to perceive threat. And when it does, a chemical cocktail courses through our veins, and we go below the line. This reaction was designed to help us survive in the presence of a real threat to our physical survival. An issue for modern-day leaders is that often our brains can't tell the difference between a threat to our physical survival and a threat to our ego or identity. We react and get defensive when we experience a threat to our ego. So in many ways, being below the line is natural and normal. But when we are below the line, we're not in a state, literally brain state, of high creativity, collaboration, innovation, and relational connection. We're simply trying to survive.
because now we're going to be able to give great service and be able to react and respond in ways that are going to bring better results. If people are shut down, afraid of making a mistake, it's only right one way, now you have constriction, and that is not nearly as productive as you really want people to be.
And this like understanding that nobody's dying here and that mistakes are going to happen. We don't love them, but they're a thing. We're going to address them. And having a really open culture about that, that's something that we really foster in my company. We even have a Slack channel called Fail Forward, where we own our mistakes. We're like, oh my God, I sent the email to the thing, or oh my gosh, I found this typo or whatever. Because we have such an open culture of admitting and like just acknowledging our mistakes, that people are not afraid to take action. I'm a person for my team, I want people to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. I just want people to like move forward, make decisions in alignment with our values.
Yeah.
If things aren't perfect, we'll clean them up. But it's been really interesting to see people's reaction to that coming from other environments where they were so afraid to make a mistake or to be imperfect. And how that has been such a positive impact in our culture. Like, we don't want to make mistakes. Everybody wants to do great work. Nobody's excited about making a mistake. We're not like, ooh, typos everywhere. But not being afraid of making a mistake and being in a culture that's supportive of learning from your mistakes and going forward has really made it a lot easier to be a manager and a leader, because people just take accountability for what they're doing and figure stuff out and try to do better. And you don't have to like beat people over the head with it when they make a mistake. Like,
And I think it's also the expectations that are set from the agent or agents to the clients and the vendors that also help set up a new admin for success. So if you pump up the fact that you have a team, that you have this talented person who may be new on your team, but who is learning, someone who has great experience. So you can also set that up so that if they make a mistake or they say the name wrong or they attach the wrong document, it's okay. And to be able to allow the client or the vendor to have grace as well. So that you don't have to hide the fact that you have a new team member, or that they have to be perfect when they come out of the gate. And so that fear mentality is difficult to learn in and be productive in. And so, then as this new person on the team does well, they build their own credibility. Mm-hmm. And you can keep introducing the fact that you have this terrific person or people on your team, which means that the lead agent can pull back and spend more and more of their time in the acronym PLAN, prospecting, lead follow-up, going on appointments, and negotiating contracts, which is like 80% of a lead agent's role if they're in a selling capacity.
Right.
So, they can spend less and less time inside the administration or operation.
Yes. And what I'm about to say really deserves its own separate conversation. But when no talented person wants to be micromanaged. And Correct. If you are living in this fear-based environment where if you're on top of your people all the time and you're stuck in the admin work and you're micromanaging talent, they will leave you. You will,
they take pride in doing their work.
Exactly. Right. The only people who will survive with you are the people who need to be micromanaged. And you don't want those people. That doesn't serve you at all. So you have to you do have to commit to going through this process, because when you train people and empower them and encourage them and support them, you don't have to micromanage them. You barely even have to manage them. They will learn their job and they will go forward and they will make your life so much easier. And you will not even be able to imagine how you survived without this person in your life. Like, it is incredible when you have the right people around you. But that takes work on your part. And it's a skill set that you as the agent or the leader have to embrace and work on. And, it's a lifelong journey, right? I mean, leadership isn't a switch. It's a journey. You continue to get better at it. But I think the thing that I want to encourage everyone to consider is, if you're not willing to go on that journey and work on yourself as a leader, do not hire people. Just forget it. Just be a solo agent, because you will not like it. You will have turnover. And it won't serve you, and it's not fair to the people that you hire. So either get on board with this new journey that you get to be on. You are privileged to have the opportunity to lead great people. Embrace that. And if you don't want to do that, then don't hire people.
Yeah, because it's okay. You can hire,
and it's okay.
Hire vendors and services to do things that in-house or virtual assistants do for you, but they're a vendor. It's a different relationship, but these people are not vendors. These people are on your team, and we should talk just for at least a moment about the fact that if you want them to be committed to your goals and your values, then you need to be committed to their goals and their values. And that reciprocity is priceless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful place to end, because we could go on and on forever. Kathleen, thank you so much. It's always so wonderful to talk to you. I will link to Kathleen's information in the show notes below. If you are on your hiring and training journey, I certainly would love to talk with you. ProRA Staffing matches real estate assistants with agents and teams all across the United States. So you can check out our link below. And if you like content like this, please consider subscribing. We post videos all the time on fostering careers in real estate and growing real estate teams. Cheers.
Cheers.